Welcome to Smash Fiction, the podcast where we pit two or more fictional characters against one another in a battle of strength, or wits, or magical swordsmanship, and argue who would win. This week, Geralt versus Link. Geralt of Rivia has gotten a little lost in his wanderings through the land of Temeria and now suspects he has accidentally passed out of that nation entirely. He now finds himself on a thickly wooded, rain-drenched little island that is unfamiliar to him, but he soon discovers that he's not alone in being transported to these strange surroundings. The Hyrulean hero of time known as Link has also arrived in this odd place. Immediately distrusting one another, the two prepare to do battle, but before they can, the rain clears. The skies open, clouds being pushed to either side like massive doors made of cloud. Down from the heavens above peers the unmistakable face of God Almighty, who, after telling the pair off for groveling and complaining about the depressing nature of the Psalms, informs them that they have been given a task to make them an example in these dark times. Geralt and Link then see an image of a giant golden goblet, the Holy Grail. Look well, contestants, for it is your sacred task to seek this grail, a quest that will take you through the Caves of Caerbannog, across the Bridge of Death, and into the cursed hallways of the Castle Aaaaaaaaaarrrrggghhh. Which famed adventurer will be able to hold up against French taunting, resist the temptations of Castle Anthrax, dicker with the knights who say knee, and do battle with the most fearsome white-furred bunny-eared enemy of them all? I have no idea. That's why I, Miles Schneiderman, am your impartial judge this week. Arguing for Team Geralt are Dan Mulherin.
You're the hero of time. Well, I didn't vote for you.
And Liz Logan.
Want to hear a limerick? Link, Link, what a prick.
Arguing for Link are Colin Mulherin.
Oh, I get it. Very clever.
I honestly thought we had lost you there for a second. And Andrew Madden.
It's dangerous to go alone. Take this!
I want to make it clear to the advocates here tonight that Team Link will be using the Hero of Time version of the Link character, just so that's on the table. To determine who goes first, I assigned each team a book report on the original literary stories in which their respective characters appeared. Team Link was the first to realize that there actually isn't an original literary version of Legend of Zelda, so they will be going first.
I believe it's based on a Steven Spielberg movie, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Something like that. Team Link, you have the floor.
Link is an immensely powerful being. I can even call him a guy or a person, because he's an ancient immortal soul born into times of trouble when the world of Hyrule needs a hero. Pretty much every time that Hyrule's had a decent-sized problem throughout its many eons of history, Link has been the one to solve it. Over his many lifetimes, he has faced countless monsters and accomplished unfathomable Herculean tasks. Far too much to recount it all here, but let's just say for Link, the questions are not what he can do, or what monsters has he killed, and what has he accomplished, but what can't he do, what monsters hasn't he killed, and what hasn't he accomplished. Let's start with his swordsmanship skills, which are amazing. Watch a demo video of someone playing the absurdly awesome, over-the-top recent Zelda game called Hyrule Warriors on YouTube, Tower Defense. And without trying too hard over the course of 2 minutes and 20 seconds, Link managed to kill 279 enemy soldiers, often cutting down 5 or more enemies in a single strike. That's about 2 enemy soldiers per second. But that's just the moose. If you want to talk about the big bad monsters, the one-of-a-kind evil baddies that wait at the end of each dungeon, phantom shadow beasts, parasitic armored arachnids, subterranean lava dragons, Link has killed over 174 boss monsters across all of his lifetimes, 17 boss monsters and 21 lesser mini-boss monsters in the current Hero of Time lifetime. These enemies may be more colorful than the slowly lumbering, desaturated, growling monstrosities that our friend the Witcher faces, but they are no less dangerous.
Yeah, and Link's most iconic attack, the spin attack, caused him to hold out his sword and spin around in a circle like a beautiful whirlwind of death. I read an article speculating about the physics of this attack on a website called Narguliman's blog about some physics and stuff, and apparently when
Sounds
Link...
right.
Yeah. Apparently when Link uses this attack, he completes each 360-degree rotation in 0.65 seconds. So based on his height and weight, he was able to determine that he swings a sword at a speed of 13 meters per second. And then based on the dimensions and weight of the Master Sword, he determined that his sword would hit its targets with more than 40,000 pounds per square inch of pressure. Getting hit
Science.
by... Yes. It's physics. It's physics time. As a point of comparison...
Hey, you're not allowed to sing that song. Only I'm allowed to sing that song.
As a point of comparison, getting hit by 75 pounds per square inch of pressure is 100% fatal to all humans, according to the Mythbusters. So, 75 pounds, 40,000 pounds. Just saying. Might explain why in Super Smash Bros., when Link uses his spin attack while airborne, it causes him to lift up in the air like a goddamn murder copter. In terms of gear, Link has all the gear, just so much. I just need to start listing stuff because there's just too much of it. He has the fairy bow, which can shoot regular arrows, exploding fire arrows, freezing ice arrows, and of course light arrows, which are good against supernaturally evil creatures. He has the hook shot, which is the spring-loaded spearhead on the end of an extendable chain that he can use as a long-range weapon or to pull things to himself or to pull himself great distances to otherwise inaccessible areas. He has Deku nuts, which are little nuts that he throws and they explode like flashbang grenades. He has the lens of truth, which allows him to see through illusions and discern the true nature of people and objects. He has the Goron tunic, which makes him immune to intense heat. He has the Zora tunic, which lets him breathe underwater. He has the Kokairi tunic, which looks really cool because it's green. He has bombs, which are bombs. And by the end of Majora's Mask, he has 24 different magical masks. About half of them are pretty useless, but the other half are really impressive. He has the Stone Mask, which causes people and monsters to not notice his presence, essentially granting him invisibility. He has the Bunny Hood, which greatly improves his already impressive speed and agility. And he has the All Night Mask, which makes it so that he does not need to sleep. The strongest of these masks, however, are his transformation masks. The Deku Mask transforms him into a tiny, fast, magical, bubble-spitting plant dude. The Goron Mask transforms him into a giant, super strong rock man who can punch things really hard or roll up into a ball and bounce around a room like an enormous, magical, spiky, rocky pinball of death. And the Zora Mask transforms him into a super in-shape fish surfer dude that can shoot off its own razor-sharp forearm fins like boomerangs, and it can generate around itself a giant pillar of magical lightning. And of course, the Fierce Deity Mask transforms Link into a buff, badass, white-haired warrior with a huge, double helix-shaped sword that shoots magic beams of death. Also, Link has magic, Din's fire creates explosions of flames, Feyor's wind lets him teleport to locations he's been to already, and Nehru's love creates a magical shield around him. He also has a magic...
Slow down, Colin.
Sorry. He has so much stuff. We don't have any time. I can't slow down. He has a magic ocarina. It lets him summon storms. It lets him change night to day and day to night. It lets him summon his faithful horse Epona, which will obviously wow over everyone he meets in this version of medieval Europe, because obviously none of them have ever seen a real horse before. He's got other stuff, the mirror shield, the Megaton hammer, but we don't have time. There's just too much stuff. Andrew, tell us why Geralt sucks.
Geralt sucks.
Great.
Most of the bosses that
Well
Geralt
said.
fights, he can kill with his sword. He has to hit him 500 times. Most Zelda bosses disable him with some gadget, then hit him with the Master Sword 3 times. They're dead. Evidence that Geralt has normal human strength, whereas Link wielding the Master Sword is bananas crazy and can kill dragons and shit in 3 hits every time. Also, a lot of the time when Geralt slays the big bosses he fights, he has help. He relies on people like Vesemir and Elder Witcher and Kyra, a badass wizard, to do his fighting for him. So maybe some of the glory that Geralt has gained due to other people helping him out, taking chunks of the boss's health bar with their magic lightning bolts. Perhaps the thing that will hurt Geralt the most, though, in this specific scenario is Castle Aaaaaaaarrrrggghhh. As we all know, Geralt has a lifelong habit of hooking up with every female humanoid he comes across. And right here in this setting, we have but 8 score young blondes and brunettes, all between 16 and 19 and a half, cut off in this castle with no one to protect them. Oh, it is a lonely life. Bathing, dressing, undressing, setting underwear. I'm sure by the time Geralt finally leaves Castle Aaaaaaaarrrrggghh, Link will have completed his quest months ago, because as we know, Link is incorruptible. Whenever Malon or Ruto start making googly eyes at him, he just gets weirded out and runs away. I mean, heck, Ruto was his wife, and he never even leaned in, let alone went all the way.
Sounds like Geralt is in terrible peril.
Can I have just a little bit of peril?
Finally, Geralt is used to enemies that look scary, and he is used to associating danger with scary-looking enemies. Link's foes, on the other hand, are often totally adorable and totally deadly. Geralt is likely to underestimate the evil bunny that guards the Cave of Caerbannog and the black beast of that lurks within.
All right. Well, strong arguments, gentlemen. Team Geralt, as apparently it's pronounced.
Geralt.
I like Geralt better.
Geralt.
Go ahead.
It's totally Geralt. Strike one, Team Link. The Witchers are an elite group of warriors who are given body-altering mutagens in order to grant them superhuman abilities. Many candidates who undergo this trial suffer horrifically painful deaths, but Geralt showed such an affinity for these mutagens that the Elder Witchers, in a stunning display of irresponsibility, just shrugged and decided to give him a bunch of other mutagens just to see what would happen. Well, what ended up happening was the warrior known as the White Wolf, the fastest, strongest, and toughest of all the Witchers. His physical abilities alone make him more than a match for any normal human, and certainly the undeniable superior of Link. Conservative estimates put Geralt at least 97 years old, but his body is still in beyond peak condition. Those 97 plus years haven't made him infirm. They've given him a breadth of experience that Link can't hope to match. Consider throwing a 3rd level character against a 40th level character in D&D, and you have a good idea as to how this match will go down. The Witchers teach that each opponent is different and must be approached and dealt with differently, but always with knowledge, perception, and skill. To that end, Geralt has trained extensively with the sword and knows several styles that he can effortlessly switch between and blend together. Whether he's facing strong and tough enemies, fast and nimble enemies, or hordes of enemies coming at him all at once, he's ready. He's also great at parrying enemy blows and then immediately counterattacking before the enemy can put its guard back up. Link, on the other hand, just has the one style and the handful of cuts and stabs he knows for that style. In the end, Geralt will be maneuvering around enemies skillfully while Link just mashes the B button. Geralt can also enhance his weapons with magical oils, runes, and ores, making these weapons not only formidable, but also versatile, meaning he can easily adapt to whatever foe he meets. This ability to change on the fly, combined with both his existing body of monster knowledge and his ability to quickly and accurately gauge the abilities of new monsters, means that he can almost instantly turn himself into the perfect fighter for any opponent.
Not to mention, some of Geralt's gear will help him a lot in this quest for the Holy Grail. You can talk about Link's spinny swords all day, but ultimately this boils down to who's going to find the Holy Grail. He's got his School of the Wolf medallion, which lights up and pulses whenever some sort of supernatural thing is going on. He can activate his Witcher senses, which function as an almost Predator-esque vision that allows him to pick out certain important items in the environment and follow scent trails, footsteps, and other landmarks. And to get more complicated, he can pick all sorts of armor and weapons to specifically suit whatever style he needs in the moment. Things that increase his magical power, things that increase his agility or strength, any of it. He's got tons of gear that he can choose from that will help him in his investigation to find the Holy Grail.
Let's talk about the differences in these characters' resources. So Link, as you mentioned, typically has access to one type of bomb, which produces a moderate explosion. Geralt can create many different kinds of bombs, not just explosive ones, but ones that poison, blind, stun, or induce fear. One type of bomb, the Red Haze Bomb, will even temporarily turn enemies into allies. With the right ingredients, the Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch will doubtlessly be within his grasp to make. Link usually has 2 or 3 types of potions available to him, usually health potions and magic potions. You know, it's adorable, really. It's very cute. But Witchers are also imbued with the ability to drink incredibly powerful potions whose potency would kill any normal human. Geralt is also a master alchemist, meaning that he can create these powerful potions himself when he needs them, while Link has to make trips back to town, praying that he has a big enough wallet to carry enough rupees to fill his empty bottles with extremely basic potions. Some of Geralt's potions include the Black Blood and Shrike potions, which turn the user's blood to poison. It doesn't do anything to the Witcher who drinks it, but any monster that injures the Witcher takes massive damage, and a monster that tries to feed on the Witcher is instantly killed. There's the Blizzard Potion, which makes the already supernaturally fast Geralt even faster. The Full Moon Potion doubles Geralt's health. Oh, and Link may be limited to however many empty bottles he's managed to get his hands on, but Geralt can have as many potions as he can carry. Geralt is also a much better and deadlier spellcaster than Link. Link typically has a small handful of spells that he can call upon once or twice before his magic meter runs dry, although in many incarnations he has no magic at all. Geralt, on the other hand, has a boatload of potential spells. Depending on how he advances in the video games, he can cast telekinetic bolts, stun spells, disarming spells, fear spells, curses, fire spells, shield spells, poison spells, spells of pain, mind control spells. He's a veritable Swiss Army knife of magical might, while Link is basically a pair of safety scissors.
And Geralt is not too shabby with a sword, might I add. Those 2 swords you were kind of poo-pooing on, how he only has his swords. Yeah, well, he's amazing. Have you seen the dismemberment in Witcher? He gets the job done. But anyways, again, back to the Holy Grail. This is going to be no problem for Geralt. He is periodically tasked with finding people and monsters all the time, including one person who can literally travel through space and time. And guess what? He is able to find her. This person, Ciri, is being chased by another time and space traveling army, and yet Geralt is still able to find her and spirit her away to safety. If he can find someone with abilities like this, getting through whatever trials that guard an inanimate object, it's going to be easy for him. Not to mention the trials in the first place. Geralt has all sorts of experience with trials and riddles and all that stuff, starting with his Witcher trials as a child. And not to mention, Link hardly ever talks. How's he going to deal with Riddlers and the Knights of Ni? Geralt can solve these riddles, and he has experience talking down pompous knights like the Knights of Ni, and nearly every other knight, politician, and royal he meets. Plus, if the Knights of Ni are anything like the people Geralt meets who require this herb, or this potion, or that potion, Geralt will easily fulfill their quest for a shrubbery, since he'd know exactly where to look, because Geralt is a master alchemist and all-around friend of plants.
What about
Plus,
the tallest tree in the forest with a herring?
he could do it. He's got superhuman strength.
Yeah, one of us has superhuman strength, one of us does not.
Given what we just said about Link, I don't know exactly how we can pull that stuff off, but it seems like...
Save for the rebuttals, Colin.
All right, sorry.
Not to mention, there is an Easter egg in Witcher 3 where you actually come across the terrifying white rabbit from Monty Python and its cave. And guess what? It's too scared to attack Geralt. Geralt basically turned it into his friend. Plus, there's tons of skeletons and bones surrounding it, so it clearly killed other people, but not Geralt, the rabbit whisperer / scary Witcher man, and the black beast of Aaaaaaaaaarrrrggghhh. If Geralt can deal with basilisks, fiends, wyverns, and cockatrices multiple times his size, the black beast will be nothing but a pest. If that fails, I have no doubt Geralt's roguish looks would give a certain animator a heart attack. And Geralt has experience in all sorts of different environments, fighting all sorts of different creatures within those environments. Whether it's a swamp, a tundra, mountains, castles. He has
What about a castle sticking into a swamp?
Yes, indeed. He already has, just based on this, he already has one up on the fairy barf-colored world of Link. Plus, if Geralt needs to storm a castle to find perhaps the Holy Grail or whatever, or, Castle Anthrax, because he could storm through that too. Heyo. He already has experience in and around fighting in one, okay? The Witchers of the School of the Wolf are based at a castle named Caerbannog. At one point, he needs to defend that castle, and thus would know the ins and outs of where defenses and traps would be, and how best to traverse said castle. Since the tutorial for The Witcher 3 is literally the game training, Geralt, how to fastest traverse a castle. It's actually a race against another NPC. And in another completely unrelated castle, this time a castle sticking into a mountain, Geralt has to fight through scores of werebears in order to save royals being attacked. Geralt is awesome. He does not suck.
He does not suck. Battle cry of The Witcher. Excellent argument.
What are we going to do about that? Yes, he does?
What? Team Witcher? Apparently he doesn't.
Oh,
so you're going to have to
I got
come
nothing
up with
on
something
that.
else.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to have to, sir, because it is time for rebuttals. And Team Link, it is your first go on that. I'd also love to hear, if you can, some more specifics as to how you would handle some of the particular trials and tribulations of the path to the Holy Grail.
Oh, yeah. We got you covered there. So,
speaking broadly about Link as a character for a moment, you talked about The Witcher having someone who has touched or is, nearby someone who has traveled through space and time. Link has been there. He is literally a multi-generational being and shares experiences with the same person and this knowledge of the single core lineage of Links that is apparently going to go on until, the cows come home.
we see this version of Link, the hero of time, training a later version of himself as the hero shade in Twilight Princess.
Yeah, it's interesting that you guys bring up Link's lifespan, like stretching in either direction, because the Ocarina of Time game serves as a pivot point for the Legend of Zelda's three main timelines. Basically, depending on what the outcome of Ocarina of Time is, it creates one of three different timelines because the Legend of Zelda timeline is out of control, but that's a different story. And it turns out that two of those three timelines result from Link not defeating Ganondorf. So there is a 2 out of 3 chance that Link loses at the end of Ocarina of Time.
Well, we got the good one. We picked the one that goes on to have other adventures and doesn't lose. So
That
good
is incorrect. The Link which proceeds over to the Majora's Mask storyline is not one which defeats Ganondorf.
Doesn't he? And then he gets returned to being a child by Zelda?
That's because he gets returned to being a child, meaning he does not go on to fight Ganondorf. Sorry, I don't know. I don't want to know how much time we're going to spend on this, but I was under the impression that at the end you beat Ganondorf and then you go back to being a child. That's what I'm saying is at least 2/3 of Link is a loser. That is my central argument.
But we're the 1/3 that's not. We're the good one. We're the happy ending when he goes on to... Anyway, forget it.
Congratulations on being 1/3.
This is like more complicated than time paradoxes in Star Trek.
This makes Crisis on Infinite Earth look like baby stuff.
Okay, let's not go crazy.
Anyway, let's get back to our rebuttal time. We have a lot to say. Okay, ways to beat the little rabbit. He has bomb chews. You drop a bomb chew. It's like a little mechanical thing that looks like a rat, but actually it's a bomb. And as we've seen, whenever something starts moving towards the little rabbit, it leaps at it and tries to attack it. So basically, you can just let a little bomb chew down. It jumps on it and then it explodes. And we've seen explosives can blow it up, like the Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch.
Colin, have you ever tried to hit anything with those bomb chews? They can be running directly at it, and the bomb chew will go out of the way of it. That is like the least effective weapon in that entire damn game.
Well, I think someone didn't beat the bomb chew bowling alley, so...
It's just bitter.
That's Link. Link did not beat it. I have...
In our timeline, Link did beat the bomb chew bowling alley.
I have a golden N64 cartridge that says otherwise, sir.
Yes, yeah. You're just bad at Legend of Zelda and jealous because you had the bad timeline because you suck at Legend of Zelda.
My video game scripture is better than your video game scripture.
Anyway,
solved with a powder keg.
Yeah, powder keg works, or just normal bombs work. Also, he could just wait, and when it gets close, you can just sword spin it. Like, when like a choo-choo leaps at you, you just charge up your sword, and then when it gets close, you sword spin it. Or when he meets the Black Beast of Ah, it's a subterranean creature with a bunch of eyes, so obviously light arrows would work really well on it. It has a giant gaping maw that it tries to eat you with, so you could throw bombs into its mouth like you do against King Dodongo. When you try to cross the chasm, Link has hover boots, Link has the hook shot, and we can see he can communicate fine. People ask him his name, and then a second later they just say, "Oh, Link," as though he can somehow, so when the guy says, "What is your name?" he can just like somehow intuit that the guy said.
I was about to ask you your quest, yeah.
And then if he says, like, "What is your favorite color?" he just points at his Kokairi tunic. Like, he can work it out. Like, Link has ways of communicating.
That's not how you play the game, man.
Also, okay, say he gets the questions wrong. He has his iron boots. So he is immovable while wearing the iron boots. So the gusts that pick up aren't going to lift him.
I think that just means he's going to drop to the bottom of the abyss that much faster.
Okay, well, he has a fairy on him. So when he hits the bottom of the abyss, he's going to come back from the dead.
And be stuck at the bottom of the bottomless pit for the rest of his life.
The term you're looking for is the Gorge of Eternal Peril.
Sorry. Eternal peril, not just momentary peril and then you get back up.
Well, no.
Yeah, not just a little bit of peril, eternal peril.
Whenever Link falls down a chasm, he just respawns right next to it. We've seen this. Come on. Oh, and finally, beating the French when they're going to be throwing farm animals at him. I recall a certain bit where you're trying to get up Death Mountain, and there's a bunch of boulders that are falling down, and you have to duck under the Hylian shield when they all fall down. And then when the eruption stops, you run forward, and then the eruption starts again, and then you duck under the shield, and all the boulders fall on you, and then you have to just keep doing that. So that's what he would do when the French are throwing animals at him.
Yeah, good luck trying to trade insults with them, though, when you can't talk.
He'll just use the stone mask and slip past him. They won't see him.
Judge cutting in here. I'm pretty sure Link can speak. He just doesn't often. FYI.
Show me where he speaks.
He says "come on" in Wind Waker.
So he knows 2 words.
I've played enough Smash Brothers to know that he has vocal cords and can use them.
Andrew, give us a reenactment.
I think Liz is giving the reenactment.
Yeah, I mean, we've all rolled across that field a number of times.
Yeah, trying to see if it actually does make you move faster or not.
Yeah.
The answer is no.
The issue with Geralt here, who's not Geralt apparently, is that his pride is going to stand in his way in these scenarios in which he has to either A, take a tongue lashing from the French, or stand in the face of this seemingly harmless looking rabbit. It's the issue where he is going to be used to being tough. He doesn't have that level of humility that he's going to need as an anti-hero to try and get the job done. He's going to end up getting stuck. He's not ineffable and incorruptible as Link is. Link is single-minded, single-focused, and will be able to pass by these things without issue or injury.
Andrew, right now, you are like all the peasants in the Witcher games that look down on Geralt as this anti-hero, as this mutant, they call him, because they don't understand him. You, sir, do not understand Geralt. Geralt is super humble. He will commune with anyone. My goodness, there's a quest where there's this horrible, deformed baby that wasn't named before it got to its name date, and his father killed it, and buried it and didn't name it. And this thing came out of the ground and wanted to kill everything and take revenge on the world for hating it. And Geralt was just like, oh, no, there, you poor baby. Let's get you somewhere safe. That literally happens in a quest. And Geralt is like this kid's daddy number 2. He's awesome. You misunderstand him. Geralt can totally be kind. He is not this rogue anti-hero. He's super nice.
I think what Liz is saying is, if that's how you feel about mutants, you guys might as well just join up with the Friends of Humanity right now.
That's right. Where's your Sentinels, boys?
I don't know how many of those he's going to encounter, but how about all of the things at Castle Aaaaaaaarrrrggghhh? I'm sure I can't wait till you guys have to answer for that, because I
have one right now.
Well, then let's get into that. Team Geralt, your rebuttals, please.
Okay, so Castle Aaaaaaaarrrrggghhh, you're saying, Geralt, oh man, women, Yeah, Geralt likes women, but you know what? He has a true love. And his true love's name is Yennefer. And through thick and thin, he and her have gotten...
Is it really?
It is.
Whatever. Yes.
Sorry.
Okay.
It's Polish, sir.
It's a silly name.
Okay, anyways. He and her, through thick and thin, have always ended up together at the end of Witcher 3. I'm so sorry for all these spoilers. It's a great game. You should play it anyways. He and her get together, and he is... You can choose to have sex with, everybody, okay? And if you do, you get kind of shafted. You get catfished a little bit. But you know what? In the books and everything, he and Yennefer are always together. He always turns away all the other sorceresses and stuff. And remember, all the sorceresses in Witcher 3, they can literally sculpt their skin and bodies to be as perfect as they want them to be. And Geralt has to deal with these women on a daily basis without,
Also
oh God, I gotta fuck everything. He can say no. And he always comes back to Yennefer, his one true love. And she's also slightly jealous, but for good reason. And he's like, yes, I love you. Okay.
I'm sure he's going to indulge in just a little bit of peril, at least.
And nothing's gonna be bad, though. He deals with this on a daily basis.
You've established, then, that the link you are using is the one who goes on to Majora's Mask. Is that correct?
Sure.
Okay. That means he will not have the Master Sword, because whenever he draws the Master Sword, he turns into an adult. In order to become a child again, he has to return the Master Sword to the pedestal. So Link will not have the Master Sword. As a result, he will not have the Megaton Hammer. He won't have the silver and golden gauntlets. He won't have any of the other items he collects from the second, and one would argue, much more power-heavy half of Ocarina of Time.
I mean, most of that equipment he ends up getting in Majora's Mask anyway, except for a couple items. I mean, he gets the mirror shield, he gets his bow and all of his special
But he
arrows
doesn't get the Master Sword. And that was a big part of your guys' argument.
I mean, it's true, but the Fierce Deity Sword is just as dangerous. It can kill bosses just as faster. It kills Odalwa in 3 hits.
Right, but here's the thing. You can't wear the Fierce Deity mask all the time. You can only wear it under certain conditions. You can't put it on when you're just running around in the fields of Hyrule. It has to be under very specific cutscenes, which I'm not 100% sure will ever come up when he's running around Camelot.
It has to be in boss fights and stuff, and so yeah.
I understand that Team Link decided specifically to clarify which version of Link they were using. However, this is still a Smash Fiction podcast. We do tend to bend these timelines a lot when we're dealing with these characters. I'm willing to allow that Link has his most iconic equipment, at least.
Very well.
Okay.
One thing I will say, Link had better hope that he never actually ends up having to fight Geralt. Because... Quick, what's the hardest fight in Ocarina of Time? The hardest fight. The answer...
Scintillating audio.
The answer is Shadow Link. Link has a really, really tough time facing an opponent who doesn't fight the way that a monster does. That is a competent swordsman who's able to anticipate his enemy's attacks and counterattack accordingly. Link barely pulls a victory out of the fight with Shadow Link, and Shadow Link doesn't even have access to the same items and powers that Geralt has. The point is, Geralt is like Shadow Link, but a much better fighter, and with a lot more tricks up his sleeve.
If I'm not mistaken, the reason that Shadow Link is so tough is just because he mirrors all of your moves.
Well, he also anticipates your moves, which is another thing that Geralt can can do much better than Link.
But he's able to do this because of like magical reasons. He's like a copy of you that can do all the things that you're doing a second before you. And the only reason you can beat him is if you use equipment other than your sword. And Link does learn how to adapt and use that equipment and beat Shadow Link despite having a tough time against him at first. And this is somebody who's like supernaturally able to predict his movements using
sort of like a Witcher with enhanced senses and
enhanced senses are not the
abilities.
same as like being a magical clone of someone who's doing the exact same movements that you're doing. You know, that's like a bit of a harder thing than just a guy with good reflexes.
I would argue that an experienced warrior with superior reflexes is much better than someone who does the exact same thing that you do. Someone who's able to anticipate what you do and then counter accordingly is a much more fearsome opponent.
Okay, well, what about Ganon then at the end? He's a giant, crazy freaking monster who's super strong and also, like, I mean...
That actually brings me to my next point, which is that the Legend of Zelda games really emphasize their own gaminess. Even the enemies themselves are really just simple puzzles. You know, you fight a giant fire-breathing lizard who takes a good 10-second long breath before he shoots fire at you. Oh, maybe I'll throw this bomb in his mouth. You know, one of those bombs that I found in this very dungeon. I'm fighting this giant spider thing who stays at range but has a giant yellow weak spot. Oh, well, I found this slingshot earlier. Maybe I'll use that on him. You know?
So we're going to talk about telegraphing attacks now. The Witcher enemies telegraph their attacks so hugely, especially all of the bosses. There's like the golem, and it's like all the standard video game things. I'm going to punch, I pull my hand back, I'm going to jump in the air. That means I'm going to make a shockwave on the ground. You better get out of the way.
My point is, Geralt isn't trying to solve ridiculously easy puzzles. He's figuring out the way that his enemies think, move, and act, and then he finds a counter for them.
Which is always hitting it with his sword. That's all he does.
If you
he
suck,
has a crossbow, he has magic, he has more stuff, and he has bombs.
Yeah, if you suck at being the Witcher, then you keep going at him with your sword. But Geralt is the greatest of the Witchers.
And using his teammates, right, to fling lightning bolts at them, which he's not going to have.
Yeah,
okay, guys, it's obvious you guys haven't played Witcher games because he does not travel with a companion. Like, that does not happen. He does all this stuff by himself. There's a reason why people do not want to be seen with the mutant. He is a lone warrior.
He's got a fairy, though, right?
That would be Link. That would be Link, sir.
A useless fairy that you always want to shut up that doesn't do anything.
Right. And you guys are talking about how Geralt, he only has a sword and whatever. Okay, even if Geralt and Link were to meet in Camelot and have to fight, all Geralt has to do is throw down his Yrden sign, which creates a slow field around whatever enemy he's fighting, and they move super slow. So, you know, all that physics and stuff about Link's spinny attack and all those pounds of force or whatever, not going to matter when he's moving at the speed of molasses.
I would like to say that when it comes to fighting the skilled swordsmen and learning their moves, Shadow Link shouldn't be a struggle. Someone who is sound of mind can realize that he does not have the same access to the same kinds of weaponry. It's about adapting to the fight. It's not about simply hitting the B button repeatedly. And if you are doing that, and if you are sitting there and rolling across the field repeatedly and getting hit by skeletons and whatnot, you're probably not playing Zelda correctly.
Are we seeing some insight into how Andrew Madden plays Zelda?
We are.
Well, no, so here's the thing, if you're dumb and you just attack Shadow Link with the sword, then you're going to lose. So if maybe Geralt is a slightly better fighter than him in terms of his technique, maybe he does know more sword fighting techniques than Link does, despite the fact that you do see Link training in sword technique with a master in Majora's Mask as one of the side quests. But if that's the case, then Link will use his other equipment. As I've mentioned, all the crazy stuff that he has access to, all of his masks that let him transform like into the fierce deity. I think that, you know, Geralt is a powerful enough foe that he'll be able to use the fierce deity mask against it, or any of his other stuff that he can do. He has Neighbor's Love makes him immune to all damage while it's on.
Okay, one last, may I go for one
final
last
points for Team Geralt.
Okay.
Because Team Link just made them.
We can sit here and list all the cool things that we have to throw against each other, but at the end of the day, this boils down to finding the Holy Grail. Geralt is an investigator. He is a witcher. He is literally tasked with finding where monsters are hiding, killing them, dealing with it, getting his reward. This guy has been Pavlov tested to the point where if he knows that there's a reward at the end of something, he will do whatever he can do to investigate where it is, get it, and get the reward. I mean, even all the pieces of armor and weapons in the game, like, you get little scraps like describing a location. You know, it's a treasure map. There's always all these little treasure maps and treasure hunts, and Geralt can complete them all. He will find the Holy Grail.
Can we get a quick counterpoint, or are we out of time?
Unfortunately, I hear the sounds of thunder in the distance.
Oh no, what could that mean?
And I believe those sounds herald the lightning round. Thank you. So, Both competitors have arrived at Castle Aaaaaaaarrrrggghhh and have drawn up their respective huge, budget-defying armies for a final assault on the stronghold. As they stand by to attack, however, they suddenly notice that the scene around them has dramatically changed. They're still standing before a castle on the water, but instead of Castle Aaaaaaaarrrrggghhh, this one appears to be surrounded by a huge city built on 3 hills and dominated by a large red keep. There's also still an army around them, but instead of being at their beck and call, these soldiers, bedecked in heraldry bearing animal sigils like, stags, lions, stuff like that, surround the pair and demand to know to which house they owe allegiance. Geralt and Link try to answer honestly, but the soldiers hear Geralt of Rivia as Geralt of Riverrun, and Link of Hyrule as Link of Highgarden. Assuming they are long-lost scions of 2 of the most noble houses of Westeros, the soldiers usher Geralt and Link inside the walls, where they are immediately drawn into that shifting morass of lies and intrigue known as the politics of King's Landing. They quickly realize that their only hope of getting home is to amass as much power as possible in this new world. There seems to be an opening at the top, after all. King Joffrey Baratheon has just been poisoned by his nephew, currently awaiting trial and execution, and the new king is a child, alternately being fought over by his mother, his teenage wife, and anyone else who wants a say in the new Westerosi order. Unfortunately, the numerous magics available to Geralt and Link don't seem to work here, leaving them with only their wits and social and political skills to try and become, or at least exert the most influence over, the King of Westeros. Contestants, when you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. Which shall it be? Team Geralt. You're up first.
I want to first say, Miles, and I mean this in the best possible way, you, sir, are quite the nerd.
Thank you.
Go ahead,
I appreciate that.
Go ahead.
So
you all can go over to www.towerofthehand.com to read more of my writings about Game of Thrones and the world of Westeros. Anyway.
So Geralt of Riverrun, you said, right?
Yes.
So he's going to be a Tully, and my phrase for him that he'll be telling everyone is, get ready to swim with the fishes, because everyone's going down. They're going to be dying. Geralt of Riverrun is going to take King's Landing by storm, not unlike the Baratheons did when they conquered King's Landing. Let me see, any other Game of Thrones facts I can get out there? No, not yet. Okay, so, Child King, right?
Yeah.
Are we talking about Tommen or what?
Yeah, we're talking about Tommen here.
Okay, so, as I said earlier in my argument, Geralt is a pro with dealing with children, especially weird mutant children. Well, I mean, I don't know if I would call Tommen a mutant. He's just a product.
I mean, he's the product of incest, so.
You know, we'll just roll with that.
Spoiler alert.
Like I said, he was able to deal with this child. Make sure don't get revenge. Like, I know your brother probably like teased you and hurt you when no one was looking, but just chill. Everything. And Geralt can see through bullshit. Okay, this guy is a master of political intrigue and dealing with all the bullshit that's in court gossip and intrigue. Okay, in Witcher 3, he acts as an envoy to an emperor. He is this emperor's private agent who is tasked with finding his daughter, the one I was talking about that traveled to time and space. And Geralt can either act in his interest, which he does, and then he can tell the emperor to go shove it and let his daughter run free like she wanted to. But either way, he knows how to interface with political individuals. He, in Witcher 3, he is doing it with the Emperor and doing all the little things that come with that. Oh God, Geralt. I mean, I could see.
He gets around, apparently. I mean, I knew that he.
Yeah, anyway. He does. But anyways, and in Witcher
Likes
2,
that peril.
in Witcher 2, he also, which is called Assassins of Kings. He deals with this whole intrigue over this assassination plot for a king, and now that he has experience with that, he'll be able to protect the new king and not have what happened to Joffrey happen to Tommen. And obviously, Tom will be like, "Oh yeah, that's so great! You have so much experience." I mean, he dealt with King Foltest, all the other kings at the King's Moot who wanted to get their land and stuff. Geralt was able to no, you seem like you'd be a good king. You seem like you'd be a bad king. You might be a good queen. I'm going to turn you into a dragon. And he deals with all this political stuff, and he's this witcher, but he happens to have just a great mind for it. He would flourish in King's Landing.
Yeah, You know, the tagline which you quoted, Miles, is when you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. A perhaps more detailed tagline would be, you manipulate or you become manipulated. Now, Geralt is so much more used to the intricacies of court than the childish Link is. Geralt is used to maneuvering his way around the castle environment and dealing with royalty. In Witcher 2, he shatters a criminal organization. He takes part in an uprising. He kills the Grand Master of this group called the Order of the Flaming Rose. He becomes the most trusted man of King Foltest of Temeria. And all the while, he also makes friends. You know, the Team Link attempted to use Geralt's companions against him earlier, but what it shows is that he's able to draw people to him, which can then later become useful to him when he is attempting to rise to the throne. You know, all he needs to do is find a bard like his friend Dandelion to help spread his legend, and all of that public support will be under him like a groundswell, lifting him to the top. Also, another point that Team Link tried to use against us, Geralt does have quite a bit of skill when it comes to seducing ladies, which is yet another skill he possesses, which comes in handy in Game of Thrones, as we've seen, which Link would, as Team Link themselves pointed out, run away from. Now, Link is the sort of person who is manipulated. You know, he's given quests, he's sent to dungeons, he's sent to go grab shiny things from monsters. Geralt is much more his own man. He's a lot smarter, he's a lot more savvy, and he's a lot more used to the sort of situation that he'll find himself in Westeros. And it won't be long before he's sitting on that Iron Throne.
You even attend a masquerade ball in Witcher 3 and put on a mask and dance under the moonlight. Please.
Game, set, match.
Fair enough.
How long are the lightning rounds
Link.
supposed to go on?
Team Link, that's a tall order to beat.
All right,
What do you got?
I got some stuff. Link has hopped between worlds before. His current incarnation originally started off in Hyrule, but in Majora's Mask, he travels to the parallel world of Termina. And an interesting thing that you find when you go there is that a lot of people in parallel universes have counterparts. There'll be like one person who has like a sort of clone or alternate version of themselves in another world. And I think that this is going to be the same thing here. When he gets here, he's going to realize that a lot of the Game of Thrones characters are actually alternate incarnations of the same souls of the people that he's known when he was living in Hyrule and when he traveled to Termina. I think it's pretty obvious that Marjorie Tyrell is going to be an incarnation of Princess Zelda. And when they meet, just as the first time they met in her garden in Ocarina of Time, they will instantly realize that they are meant for each other in some way. They'll feel a strange cosmic connection, and the two of them will unite their forces and agree to conquer together. And because, you know, Link and Zelda, their love is eternal, she's not going to betray him, obviously. And Link may not be the smartest man around, but he'll have Zelda, who's quite a bit more savvy when it comes to court politics around. And he'll make a great tool for her because he is really good at infiltrating. We see that he can sneak in and out of castles, like when he sneaks in to meet her, or when he sneaks into like pirate fortresses or the Gerudo Fortress. You know, he's very good at infiltration. And also, you know, I think that, I didn't get to list off all my other things. Anyway, regardless, Asha Greyjoy is Ruto, and I think Robert Baratheon is probably Darunia, but regardless.
He's dead by this point, but yeah.
Anyway.
As you know, Link is a kind of a strong silent type, unable to convey the things he needs to convey, but he, once again, has a strong lineage and strong history of being right near the top of all of these power struggles. He's always there in the throne room in every single video game, directly impacting the course of history, and not history, and going back in time and going forward in time. So he's always right near the top of the power struggle in every situation.
I know scattered things about The Witcher, but didn't he get accused of killing a king at one point in time, and didn't he have to go on the run?
Oh yeah, and
he was in prison for it, as I recall.
Yeah.
And he proved his innocence. He talked his way out of that shit.
We always know that Link ends up on the right side of history on these sorts of things. He's I don't even think he's gotten that far. I mean, he's never even had that brush of a close brush to death when it comes to politics. And I mean, working together with Zelda, he was able to expose and defeat Ganondorf, who had, you know, wedged his way into the Castle of Hyrule and into the royal family there.
Also, in Westeros, there would be no trial.
I also forgot to say that in The Witcher 3, there's actually a quest where you can choose to kill a king of a nation. I killed him. And Geralt was responsible for that. So some imposter king comes in. Oh, Renly, Rob, This
All right,
guy's
anything
particular
else?
name was Radovid.
Anything else
Yeah.
for the lightning round, Team Link?
I have things for the main argument, but we can't talk about that now.
Now we're in Westeros now, man.
I know.
Yeah, that's right.
Everything's changed. We're in Westeros. All right.
All right, excellent job by both sides here. I'm very impressed by both teams. So I am going to need a few minutes. I'm going to step outside, stretch my legs, clear my head, kill some fools with a sword, and I'll be back momentarily. So feel free to plot and scheme among yourselves.
I'm afraid all this talk of video games has gotten to Miles. You hear what he said about those swords?
Yeah.
Maybe all those parenting groups were right all along.
Why did it have to be plotting and scheming? It's Link. Why couldn't it be anything else? Not just plotting and scheming.
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt you guys during the lightning round, but
Uh-huh.
the closest that Link comes to a throne room in Ocarina of Time is looking at a throne room through the window
Yes, he
and
does.
seeing Ganondorf. And yes, he takes out Ganondorf 7 years later after Ganondorf has destroyed the world.
Yes. Well, whatever. He still ended up on top. And even if he becomes the king in Westeros, doesn't stay the king for long. I'm sure that Geralt would end up on the throne briefly, and Link would just be silently in the background as one of those, not very well-defined background characters for the first few books until he suddenly becomes a huge part of the plot, 4 books later.
Yeah, one of those characters who never seems to say anything.
Yeah, it's there's always this list of people, and you're like, okay, which one is that? I see that name, and I forget who that is. And then you look him up in the back of the book. So Link is one of those guys, basically. And I think that Geralt would do very well in the first book, but then he'd be dead. So, anyway.
Good job, Andrew. You brought some serious heat, some serious Din's fire.
Yeah, I tried. That was like a disgusting web that you just weaved out of that, though, Colin. I was like, oh man, we have nothing. In order to politic, you have to be able to speak.
Yeah.
And probably at least eloquently at that.
So I just bullshit. Giant pile of bullshit.
Hey, maybe Navi could speak for him,
Yeah.
Oh no,
Hey.
that's a terrible idea.
Yes. You're just going to annoy everybody.
This is a weird one, you guys. I'm not going to lie.
They'd probably think that Link was a wildling, actually, now that I think about it, from the way he's dressed.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, they'd accuse him of eating frogs and stuff.
Oh, or one of them, yeah. So-
Where's green?
Makes sense.
He would be he'd be like Bran. Like
Yeah.
the
Oh,
Farsight-
yeah.
Farsight people.
Well, he does have a connection to wolves in one of the games.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. Link's a Stark. What are we talking about? Oh, wait, no, he's not. No, he's not. He's not a Stark. Things not end well for Starks.
No. I like this. We'll go with that.
Yeah.
I think Geralt's
They've got
going
a good track record.
I think Geralt will become an honorary Lannister.
Wait, actually, Geralt has a wolf insignia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever.
He's a friggin' Stark.
Honestly, I was gonna say he'd be part of the Night's Watch because
Yeah,
he
that makes
is
sense.
politics. I'm involved, but do I want to be? No.
I'd like to point out that Link might as well also have a wolf insignia, being that he can turn into a wolf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A warg.
I'm trying to think of which house best matches the Hyrule symbol on Link's shield. Maybe Targaryen, because it's like a winged creature.
Yeah.
No,
are there
it's just
a lot of birds?
It's just a dragon. Targaryen's just a dragon.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, Link's has obvious wings on it, and I don't think there's any with wings in Game of Thrones. Maybe one of the minor houses, I think.
He is definitely one of the minor houses. It's some
Yeah.
house that has 3 triangles. Whatever. Nobody cares. That's he's got a shield with 3 triangles on it. Everybody's like, oh, he's from some unimportant house, and then he just slips by in the background. Yeah.
House Aaron was the house I was searching for, because that one
that's
actually
the
has a
one.
bird on its
It's got a
signals.
bird.
There you go.
John
That's
Aaron.
Bird on
Link's
it.
house.
Yeah, bird on it.
Yeah, but John Aaron is dead though. Oh.
Spoiler alert. I was from the first chapter. I was expecting way more Monty Python jokes in this little intermediate segment, by the way, and we just went all off in the
Nope.
Game of Thrones. But yeah, I don't know.
I'm personally very pleased that we managed to exercise the amount of restraint that I feel like we did in not just turning this into a Monty Python quote off.
Right. I mean, we could have. It would have been so easy.
Yeah,
But,
we'll save that for when we do our actual play RPG podcasts.
right.
Your
That's
mother was
where
a
the Monty
hamster
Python-
and your father smelt of elderberries.
There we are.
There we go. Yeah. All right. Fine.
Okay, so which one of them would have been more likely to say, let's not go to Camelot, it is a silly place?
That's Geralt because he's saying something.
Geralt, yeah.
Yeah,
'cause he's-
saying anything.
Yeah.
One of my alternate intros that I was toying with was, let's not go to Hyrule, 'tis a silly place.
That works. Yeah.
It is a silly place.
It is.
Indeed.
Miles is.
I have returned. I have returned from my deliberations, and I gotta be honest, guys.
Run
this was really
away!
tough.
Run away!
Brave Sir Link.
I think that this was really hard. I think there's a lot of great points made on both sides. The primary advantage from my perspective of Geralt is that, as you guys pointed out quite eloquently, he can do pretty much everything on his own. He can make his potions on his own. He can go off on his quests on his own. He's very self-reliant, whereas, Link tends to rely on other people, towns and folks to give him stuff and let him do things. Probably the best argument in favor of Link is simply the fact that he is so, ironically, his lack of personality is a benefit in this scenario. Because he would not be tempted by Castle Aaaaaaaarrrrggghhh. He would not be as swayed by the French taunting. He is very sort of stone-faced and kind of just goes through and gets the job done. The lightning round was a lot of fun. I'm placing a little bit less emphasis on that one just because, it is difficult for a character who doesn't talk a lot.
Yeah, it was a little unfair.
When you started saying, I'm like, Miles, what are you doing to me?
It was fun, though.
It was fun, though. It was very fun.
I appreciated the argument you pulled out of your ass there, Colin, about how he recognizes people from other worlds. That was good.
Outrageous.
Yeah. But when it's all said and done, I'm going to say I have to go with Link in this one.
Yes! And there was much rejoicing.
And the reason is simply because I feel like Team Link did a better job of pointing out how Link would... A slightly better job, I should emphasize, of how Link would take on the specific individual challenges of the world of Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I really appreciated the pointing to his tunic in reference to his favorite color. And I also definitely, despite the arguments to the contrary, I tend to agree with the fact that Geralt might be a little bit more distracted in the Castle Aaaaaaaarrrrggghhh, shall we say. So, again, very close. It was a coin flip match, but in this instance, I think Link would be more efficient, especially with that hook shot getting over the walls. I think Link's getting to the Holy Grail, guys.
Well done, Team Link.
Yeah.
You were valiant opponents. It's just a shame that Miles is a fool.
Yes,
that has been said by many before you, sir.
Yes, Link fooled him with all of his cunning guile.
Again, valiant effort by both sides. Thank you all so much for your arguments here. Thank you, Andrew, for joining us.
Very much so.
Pleasure having you.
Thank you.
Lo, I come bearing news of new fans.
What?
Yes, and there was much rejoicing.
All right. So, big thanks to a couple people who mentioned us on Twitter. MVL Tweets left us a lovely little tweet. And Purpled D42, you know who you are. I don't know if I've said your name correctly, but thank you so much for the retweet and the follow.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode of Smash Fiction. Next week, our special Thanksgiving eating contest episode, Kirby versus No Face versus Homer Simpson.
Smash Fiction is produced by Miles Schneiderman, with logo designed by Colin Mulherin.
Special thanks to Kevin MacLeod for our theme song, which is called Hitman. You can find his work at www.incompetech.com.
You can follow the Smash Fiction podcast on Twitter at SmashFicPodcast and search for us on Facebook and Tumblr.
Subscribe on iTunes, and if you leave us a good review, we shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
If you have any suggestions, feedback, or other contributions, send them to us at smashfictionpodcast@gmail.com and help us continue the fight. Arguing for Link are Colin Mulherin.
Ooh.
Colin.
Ooh. Oh, I get it.
Oh, sorry.
Very
You want to do that
clever.
again?
Very clever.
I honestly thought we had lost you there for a second. Arguing for Team Link are Colin Mulherin.
No, Miles, that's the joke. Because Link doesn't speak.
No, I know. That's why I wanted to do it again, because I interrupted
I
him.
see. Well, fine. Don't let me get in your way.
Arguing for Team Link are Colin Mulherin. Nothing, really?
See previous quote.
Yes. See my previous statement about Link.
What?
Because Link doesn't speak, so
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway.